All right, let's get ready because today we're diving deep into some seriously big ideas.
Yeah.
You've all given us this incredible collection of writings, and they're all about some pretty big stuff,
Yeah.
like the nature of reality,
Okay.
existence,
Mm.
and our place in the universe.
Yeah, I like it.
And it's really cool. We've got some philosophy.
Right.
We've got science.
Nice.
We've even got some stuff that's kind of mystical.
Ooh, that's a fascinating combination.
It is. And what's really interesting to me is
Yeah.
how a lot of these sources are suggesting that, like, by understanding all of this stuff,
Right.
it could maybe lead to a calmer world,
Yeah.
like even a calmer Elon Musk.
Now, that's a thought-provoking idea.
Right. And they also hinted a future where how we understand reality
Yeah.
could totally shift.
I'm very curious about that.
Me too.
Yeah.
So let's start with something I think a lot of people are going to be at least a little familiar with.
Okay.
And that's Descartes and that famous "I think, therefore I am."
Right.
It seems simple,
Yeah.
but the sources really dive deep into
Yeah.
what that really means.
Oh, yeah, Descartes. He was wrestling with some seriously big questions back in the day. I mean, about doubt and
Right.
certainty, And cogito ergo sum,
Right.
which is I think, therefore I am.
Yep.
That was his way of basically saying that, like, the very act of thinking
Right.
is proof that we exist.
Okay.
But it's actually, it goes even deeper than that.
Oh, really?
It's really about this distinction between the thinker and the thought.
Mm.
Like recognizing that there's a self
Right.
that's actually doing the thinking.
So it's not just proving that you exist,
That's right.
but proving that you're self-aware.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a big leap.
Yeah, and that self-awareness, that ability to reflect on our own thoughts.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's a huge part of what makes us human. And, the sources argue that maybe, just maybe, if we all spent more time,
Right.
doing that kind of introspection,
Yeah.
maybe we'd develop more empathy
Right.
and understanding.
That's interesting. So
Yeah.
more self-awareness equals more empathy,
Uh-huh.
and more empathy equals less chaos.
Potentially.
Maybe less chaos for Elon, too.
Maybe.
But there's more to this distinction idea.
Yeah, there is.
Right. Like the sources keep coming back to it.
They do, and it's fascinating.
Yeah.
They point out that, like, the way we understand the world
Uh-huh.
is all about, like, creating distinctions.
Okay.
We name things.
Right.
We categorize them.
Okay.
We separate them.
Yeah.
But by doing that, by creating that distinction,
Right.
we're inherently creating separation.
So by trying to understand the world,
Yeah.
we're dividing it.
It is a little ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
And that's where this idea of anti-distinction comes in.
Okay, anti-distinction.
Yeah, it basically suggests that, like, underneath all of those distinctions that we make,
Yeah.
there's this deeper level of reality where everything is actually unified.
Whoa. Okay. My brain is like already doing backflips here.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Can you give me like an example
Sure.
to make this make a little more sense?
Think of, like, a forest.
Okay.
Like, you see all those individual trees
Right.
and all the different species,
Uh-huh.
all those separate organisms.
Yeah.
But, like, on a deeper level,
Okay.
they're all connected through
Right.
this giant network of roots and fungi.
Yeah.
They're sharing resources, they're communicating, so they're
Yeah.
distinct.
Right.
But ultimately, they're part of this single, interconnected ecosystem.
Okay. I think I'm starting to see the picture a little bit.
Yeah.
But how does this relate to that infinite-sized time diagram that the sources keep mentioning?
Right.
It sounds very abstract.
It is a little abstract, but it's basically a way of, like, visualizing
Right.
the vastness of reality.
Right.
So picture a square.
Okay.
One axis represents size, like
Yeah.
from the tiniest subatomic particle
Okay.
to the largest cosmic structure.
Oh.
And the other axis is time,
Okay.
stretching infinitely in both directions.
So it's like a map
kind
of
of.
everything.
Yeah, like everything that ever was
Right.
and ever will be.
That's pretty ambitious.
It is. And the sources argue that this diagram helps us
Okay.
grasp the true scale of existence.
Right.
And they suggest that when we can really see our place
Uh-huh.
within that vastness,
Yeah.
within this interconnected reality, it
Yeah.
can really shift our perspective.
So instead of thinking that our little problems
Right.
are the center of everything,
Right.
we start to see them
Yeah.
more in context with
Exactly.
everything else.
And maybe that shift in perspective could help us all. Even Elon.
Yeah.
Focus on what really matters.
Right.
You know? Yeah. It really is pretty humbling. You know, when you think about how vast and how interconnected everything actually is.
Yeah.
And, you know, speaking of interconnectedness,
Okay.
that kind of brings us to another one of these big ideas from the sources.
Yeah.
And that is energy mass spacetime.
Okay. Energy mass spacetime.
Yeah.
That one sounds a little technical.
It does sound a little technical, but it's basically, it's the idea that, like, energy and mass aren't these separate things.
Okay.
You know, they're really just two sides of the same coin. They're interwoven with space and time, and they form the very fabric of reality.
So everything we see,
Yeah.
everything we experience is ultimately just energy.
In a way.
Even me and you.
Yeah.
And Elon.
And Elon, that's like Einstein's famous equation.
Right.
E = mc squared.
Right.
It shows us that energy can become mass, and mass can become energy. It's all part of this unified energy mass space-time field.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it.
Yeah.
But it is a lot to wrap my head around.
Yes.
Like all of this distinction,
Yeah.
anti-distinction,
Right.
infinite-sized time diagrams, energy mass space-time.
It's a lot.
It seems like they're all pointing toward
Yeah.
like a very different way of understanding reality
Really is.
than we maybe do right now.
Yeah, and according to the sources, these ideas actually form the basis of like a three-pillared existential theory that attempts to answer like the biggest question of all. Why are we here?
Okay, I'm all ears.
All right, so
lay it on me.
Let's break down these three pillars.
Okay.
And how they explain our existence.
Okay.
Well, we've already talked about all three of them.
Right.
The first one is the infinite-sized time diagram, which, like we were saying, gives us this framework for understanding just how vast and how interconnected existence actually is.
It's like zooming out.
Yeah.
To see the big picture.
Exactly.
Okay, what about the second pillar?
The second pillar is this concept of energy mass space-time.
Okay.
Which tells us that everything at its core is energy.
Yeah.
And it's constantly changing, transforming, interacting within this unified field.
Okay, that one's starting to sink in.
Okay, good.
So what's the third one?
The third pillar is this kind of interplay between distinction and anti-distinction. It acknowledges that, we perceive separation and difference in the world, but there's this underlying unity that connects everything.
So it's like you have to kind of hold both of those ideas at the same time.
At the same time.
You know, recognizing the individual parts, but also seeing how they fit into the whole.
Exactly. And the sources argue that, like, this three-pillar theory, it isn't just some intellectual exercise.
Yeah.
Like, this could actually change the world.
So that's what I want to hear about.
Right.
How could understanding all of this lead to like a calmer, more peaceful world?
Right.
And maybe even a calmer Elon Musk.
Potentially.
The sources mention that these ideas could even change how we look for UFOs.
Oh, yeah.
What's that about?
Well, right now when we're thinking about, you know, extraterrestrial life and how we're searching for it, we're mostly focused on this outward exploration, you know, scanning the skies, sending probes to other planets.
Right.
But what if the real key to understanding the universe isn't out there? It's in here.
Whoa. Are you saying that the real UFOs are in our minds?
Yeah, in a way.
Okay.
Imagine, like, instead of looking for physical spaceships, we explored this vast, uncharted territory of consciousness.
Okay.
What if the answers to, like, the biggest questions about the universe are actually in the human mind?
Wow.
In that interconnected field of energy mass space-time.
So instead of looking up at the stars,
maybe
we should be looking inward.
It's not that we should abandon outward exploration completely, but maybe real understanding requires us to shift our focus a little bit.
Yeah.
The sources seem to be suggesting that maybe by exploring our own consciousness, by really delving into these three pillars, we might actually unlock these incredible insights about the nature of reality. and maybe even make contact with other forms of intelligence in ways that we haven't even thought of.
That's pretty different.
It is.
From how we're looking for extraterrestrial life now.
It is a pretty radical departure.
But it also kind of makes sense. If everything really is interconnected, like all of this stuff suggests, then maybe those answers have been inside us all along.
And perhaps this shift in focus, this inward exploration, is actually the key to world peace.
Right.
You know, and maybe even calming down the most ambitious minds out there.
Like Elon.
Like Elon, exactly.
So less rockets to Mars.
Maybe.
And more journeys into our own consciousness.
Yeah, I like the sound of that.
Me too.
Right.
But how do we actually apply all of this?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, how do we take these big abstract ideas and make them real?
Yeah.
Make them tangible,
Right.
you know? Find ways to actually use them in our lives.
Right.
Well, the sources do offer some clues.
Yeah, like how do we actually bridge that gap between these like really profound ideas and like the real world?
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to talk about, you know, energy, mass, space, time, and interconnectedness and all that.
Yeah.
But how does that actually
how does that actually
make the world more peaceful?
Yeah. Well, I think it starts with that shift in perspective that we were talking about.
Okay.
If we can really understand that we're all part of this like huge interconnected web of existence, then all of a sudden our individual ego and our desires start to seem less important.
So less me first.
Right.
And more like, we're all in this together.
Exactly.
But like, that sounds good in theory.
It does.
But how do we actually make that happen?
Well, the sources suggest that like one of the keys might be cultivating a sense of awe and wonder.
Okay.
You know, remember that infinite-sized time diagram?
Right.
Like, imagine actually taking the time to really think about that. Okay.
The scale of existence.
Right.
You know, recognizing just how tiny we really are in this vastness.
Right.
It can be really humbling.
Yeah.
And maybe when you start to feel that, it makes those everyday worries seem a little bit less significant.
It's like when you look up at the stars at night and you just see like how big everything is.
Yeah. And all of a sudden your problems just feel smaller.
Exactly.
And that sense of awe can lead to like a more compassionate and connected way of being.
Okay.
You know, when we realize how interconnected everything is, it's harder to justify hurting other people or acting out of pure self-interest.
It's like we're all on the same team.
Yeah.
Even if we don't agree on the game plan.
Exactly. And maybe, just maybe.
That could even calm down Elon a little bit.
Right. What if instead of going to Mars, he spent all of his energy on this stuff?
Right. Like, what if instead of focusing on colonizing Mars, he was more interested in, like, exploring the frontiers of consciousness?
Right.
You know, and understanding the true nature of reality.
No, that would be amazing.
Right. It's almost like the sources are saying that the future of peace and understanding isn't about technology.
Okay.
It's about exploring our own minds.
So the real journey to a better future isn't about spaceships.
Right.
It's about going deep inside ourselves.
It is a very radical idea.
It is.
But it really resonates with all of this, you know, distinction and anti-distinction and interconnectedness. It's like they're pointing us towards this future where the search for truth and meaning isn't out there in space.
Right.
It's in here.
Right.
In ourselves.
It's a really interesting thought.
It is.
And who knows, maybe by embracing all of this, by really cultivating that sense of awe and compassion and interconnectedness, we can create a world where even Elon Musk finds inner peace.
I love that idea.
Me too.
It reminds us that even though the world feels chaotic sometimes and divided, there's always hope for a more peaceful and interconnected future.
And it all starts with recognizing that we're all part of something way bigger than us.
Way bigger.
Something really amazing and truly interconnected.
Absolutely.
Well, on that note,
Yeah.
We're going to leave you with this thought.
Okay, hit me.
What if the key to a better future isn't about conquering the universe, but understanding ourselves?
I like it.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
Yes.
See you next time.